Hello, students. Today we are going to study your second chapter, Bringing Up Curry. It is from your elementary reader book, An Alien Hand. Before going inside the story, we should know who is the writer of this wonderful story. Hon Gopal Mukherjee, the writer of this story. Let's see the life and the journey of Hon Gopal Mukherjee. Indian American authors might be all the rage today, but they were rarity at the beginning of the 20th century. But there was one man in the 1920s writing children's book in America with clearly Indian themes and settings. He was Hon Gopal Mukherjee, a writer largely forgotten today. Eminent Stanford critic Gordon H. Chang describes Mukherjee as a person who holds the distinction of being the first author of ancient Indian ancestry, who successfully wrote for American audiences about Indian life. Dhan Gopal was born on July 6, 1890, in a village on the outskirts of Calcutta. His early education was in schools set up by a Scottish missionary. Eventually, he went to the University of Calcutta, where he displayed a special flair for English. The memories of his serene childhood would serve him well in his later turbulent years. Dhan Gopal fame has to be measured against the fact that there was a fair bit of discrimination at this time against Asians and Americans, which had culminated in the Immigration Acts 1970, also known as the Asiatic Barred Zone Act. Dhan Gopal probably survived by largely keeping himself confined to academics, unlike his celebrated countrymen Salian Ghosh and Aman Roy, who were part of the Indian freedom struggle in US. Jungle Tales, although sensitive to race relations, Dhan Gopal never allowed racial prejudices to affect him. His books for children were mainly his own version of tales he had heard in India, filled with nostalgia for a life he had left behind. They were hugely successful. One of them, Gay Neck, the story of a pigeon won the 1920 Newbery Medal, and many of the story awarded by the Best Children's Literature of the Year. He also wrote non-fiction poetry and translation, which were published in prestigious famous such as the Century magazine and the Atlantic. The first part of his 1923 autobiography, Caste and Outcast, deals with his India experience, in particular his rebellion against the Brahmanic Brahmanical tradition of his family caste, while the second section, Outcast, is about how he felt in America. So, this is the description of Hon Gopal Mukherjee. Now, let's move into the story. Bringing up Kari. This chapter is about a 5 months old baby elephant who grows up gradually learning and going through different kind of the experiences as it grown up. Generally speaking, The entire chapter is divided into three parts, each part dealing with different aspects of Kari's life and experiences as it grows up. In the first section, we find how this baby elephant grows up along with his keeper, a 9-year-old boy, and on one occasion saves life of another boy from drowning. Now let's move to the first paragraph of this story. Here we can see the key points of the first part of the story. Kari, a 5-month-old baby elephant, lives and grows up with his 9-year-old friend and keeper. Kari doesn't eat much, just about 16 kilograms of delicious twigs a day. Third point, playful and sensitive, Kari saves a boy from drowning. Now I am going to read the first paragraph. Kari the elephant was 5 months old when he was given to me to take care of. I was 9 years old and I could reach his back if I stood on tiptoe. He seemed to remain that high for nearly 2 years. We grew together. That is probably why I never found out just how tall he was. He lived in a pavilion under that under a thatched roof which rested on thick tree stumps so that it could not fall in when Kari bumped against the poles as he moved about. Kari was 5 months old when he was put under the Kari was 5 months old when he was put under the custodianship of 9-year-old little boy. The boy was able to reach the back of the elephant by standing on his front toes. This was the height that the little elephant had for 2 years and later and kept growing. And the little boy never ever knew how fast it attained a good height. The elephant shelter was also built keeping in mind the size of the animal. It was a pavilion, large open space, thick tree stump of a good height were pegged in the ground and a thatched roof was put on the top of it. All this was done with great caution and to protect the structure from falling down if the huge animal bumped in the wooden poles. Now let's move to the second paragraph. One of the first things Kari did was to save the life of a boy. Kari did not eat much, but he nevertheless needed 40 pounds of twigs a day to chew and play with. Every day I used to take him to the river in the morning for his bath. He would lie down on the sand bank while I rubbed him with the clean sand of the river for an hour. After that, he would lie in the water for a long time. On coming out, his skin would be shining like ebony, and he would sequel with pleasure as I rubbed water down his back. Then I would take him up by the ear, because that is the easiest way to lead an elephant, and leave him on the edge of the jungle while I went into the forest to get some luscious twigs for his dinner. One has to have a very sharp hatchet to cut down these sticks. It takes half an hour to sharpen the hatchet because if a twig is multi- mutilated, an elephant will not touch it. Now, the explanation of the chapter. The boy further gives account of events which took place as both of them grew along. After some time, one day Kari did save did something very remarkable. He saved the little boy's life. The elephant did not eat all that was brought for him. Rather, he liked chewing and playing with the green twigs, which were almost 40 pounds, which were cut by the boy for him. Every morning, the boy would take him to the river for the bath, where the elephant would lie down in the sand. On the river bank, where the boy would run its back, rub its back, and clean the sand on its body. After having a bath, the elephant would just lay in the water for a long time. After coming out of the river with clean and shiny skin, the skin would feel very happy and make joyful noise with his trunk. Is this I would also keep putting water on the back of the elephant's back, which would make the elephant all the more happy. The easiest way to move this big creature was to direct him by holding one of its big ears. And this was exactly that I would do and lend him all the way to the edge of the jungle, where I would leave him and taking my sharp, sharp axe went into the jungle to cut juicy green twigs for his dinner. The elephant wanted all his dinner twigs cut neatly. If they were not properly cut or torn out forcefully from the main trees, it would not eat such twigs and leave each and every twig as it was. So, in order to cut the twigs nicely and clearly, I had to regularly sharpen my little axe, which took an effort of an hour's time daily. Now, let's move to the third paragraph. It was not an easy job to get twigs and saplings for Kari. I had to climb all kinds of trees to get the most delicate and tender twigs. As he was very fond of young branches of the banyan tree, which grows like a cathedral of leaves and branches. I was gathering some one spring day in March when I suddenly heard Kari calling to me in the distance. As he was still very young, the call was more like that of a baby than an elephant. I thought somebody was hurting him, so I came down from my tree and ran very fast to the edge of the forest where I had left him, but he was not there. I looked all over, but I could not find him. I had to put in a great effort in order to get the best twigs and saplings. Young plants for Kari. He is fond of newly grown branches of banyan tree which contain a huge bunch of the leaves with them. One day in March, the springtime, as I was gathering all such food for Kari, who was waiting for me at the edge of the jungle, started calling out to me, the sound as if of a large elephant was surely an urgent call getting down from the tree. I ran towards the edge of the jungle, where I hoped to find Kari. But to my amazement, he was not to be found anywhere near the spot where I had left him. Now let's move to the next paragraph. I looked all over, but I could not find him. I went near the edge of the water and I saw a something struggling above its surface. Then it rose higher, and it was the trunk of my elephant. I thought he was drowning. I was helpless because I could not jump into the water and save the 400 pounds of him, since he was much higher than I. But I saw his back rise above the water, and the moment he caught my eye, he began to trumpet and struggle up to shore. Then, still trumpeting, he pushed me into the water, and as I fell into the stream, I saw a boy lying flat on the bottom of the river. He had not altogether touched bottom, but was somewhat afloat. I came to the surface of the water to take my breath, and there Kari was standing, his feet planted in the bank, and his trunk stretched out like a hind waiting for mine. I dived down again and pulled the body of the drowning boy to the surface, but not being a good swimmer, I could not swim ashore, and the slow current was already dragging me down. Now, in this paragraph, we can see an incident. I kept looking and soon found him inside the river. It seemed that the animal was trying to keep afloat. Kari was drowning. I thought to save a 100-pound elephant was an impossible task for a boy of my size and age. But soon Kari came above the water and saw me standing at the very edge of the water streams. He moved towards me with great effort, and to my surprise, pushed me inside the water stream. No sooner I was in the water that I saw a small boy floating towards the bed of the river. So this was the matter that had brought about the agitated nature in the Kari's behavior. I swam up of the water to take a deep breath to save the drowning boy. As I came up, saw Kari standing firmly into the water to lend all the help he could. I took a long breath and dived into the water and up the boy. But the water current was strong, and not being a good swimmer, I was unable to pull myself and the boy to the shore of the river and was slowly going down in the water in the river again. Now let's move to the next paragraph. Seeing us drift by in the current, Kari, who was usually slow and ponderous, suddenly darted down like a hawk and came halfway into the water, where I saw him stretch out his trunk again. I raised up my hand to catch it, and it slipped. I found myself going under the water again. But this time I found that the water was not very deep. So I sank to the bottom of the river and doubled my feet under me, and then suddenly kicked the river bed and so shot upward like an arrow. In spite of fact that I was holding the drowning boy with my hand. As my body rose above the water, I felt a lasso around my neck. This frightened me. I thought some water animal was going to swallow me. I heard Kari squealing, and I knew it was his trunk about my neck. He pulled us both ashore. What a wonderful passage it is. How a little elephant saving the lives. Kari was intentionally watching the whole event and was also ready to help as he saw both of us drowning again into the water. Though being a large and heavy animal, dived inside the water like hawk and stretched out his long trunk towards me to hold on it. It was a great struggle. Every time I wanted to hold the trunk, my wet hand slipped and I slipped back into the river again. As I had drifted some way along, I found that at this place the riverbed was not very deep, so I sank to the bottom of the riverbed and holding the boy and bending my knees, sprung up like a dart out of the water. As I came to the surface of the water, I felt something rope like catching hold of my neck. At first, I thought that it was some kind of water animal which had caught hold me, but and was going to eat me. But hearing Kari's squeaking sound, realized that it was the elephant who was helping us out of the water by holding me with his long trunk. Kari pulled us ashore and saved the life of the boy by also mine. The first part of a story having 5 paragraphs, and I have read and explained. Now, the first part of the story I would like to sum up. Kali was an elephant. He was 5 months old when he came to the author. Kali lived in a pavilion. It was under a thatched roof which rested on thick tree stump. Kari bumped against the poles as he moved about the enclosure. Yet the pole didn't give way. It was so because these poles were made of thick tree stumps. Kari enjoying his evening and morning bath in the river much. He would lie in the water for a long time. On coming out, he would squeal with the pleasure. After the bath, the author would leave him on the edge of the jungle. He would himself go into the forest to get some twigs for the elephant's dinner. It took a long time. First, the author would sharpen his hatchet, which took half an hour. Then the author had to climb to trees to get the most delicate and tender twigs. Doing all this naturally took a long time. Carly and the author were good friends, but Kari once pushed him into the stream. It was true. It was to save the life of a boy. He saw a boy lying on the bottom of the river. He dived and pulled the body of the drowning boy to the surface. However, the author was not a swimmer, so he could not come ashore. The current began to drag him down. Kali saw it. He came fast into the water. The author caught his trunk. He pulled both the author and the boy ashore. This is the first part of the story. In this story, we have seen so many new words. So let's see the meaning of the new words. First word meaning in this chapter is tiptoe. Tiptoe on the tips of the toes, moving with tiptoes step. Now trumpet, sound of elephant. Sneak in, come in quietly. Whipped, beat, stream, spread all around. Now luscious, having a pleasing, rich and sweet taste. Mutilated, inflict a violent and disfiguring injury on. Cathedral, the principal church of a diocese. Trumpeting, proclaim widely or loudly. Drift, be carried slowly by a current of air or water. Hatched, to make roof for a building with straw or reeds. This story is a narrative description of a small elephant. The narrator tells about the growth and habits of the elephant. This makes the reader aware of the routine of an elephant. Now, in this first part of the story, we have seen the narrator is a 9-year-old child who was given a duty to look after a 5-month-old elephant named Curry. During the first 2 years, the boy could reach the back of the elephant with ease. Curry lived in a pavilion with a thatched roof. Curry fed on 40 pounds of twigs. It was taken to a river for a bath. The sand was rubbed on its back for an hour when it immersed into the water. Later it came out with the pleasure and shining skin. While coming back, the narrator goes inside the jungle to collect luscious twigs for its dinner. The narrator informed that elephant won't touch a mutilated twig. It could be easily handled if taken by its ears. One day in March, when the narrator was gathering food from the banyan tree, he heard Curry's voice. With an apprehension, the boy ran to the where he left it. When he reached there, he realized that Curry might be drowning. However, it came out as a savior and through the narrator to save a boy. It extended its trunk to come out of the water with lots of struggle and brisk movement of Curry. Now this is about this chapter, and we can say it's the first part of the chapter, and in next video we will see and we will discuss the second part of the chapter.